Shalom, Shalom. Kahalayam La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakakadash, which is the Paleo Hebrew, for the one true name of the Heavenly Father being Yahweh, and that of the Messiah, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus, being Yahushai. Those are the only names given among men, whereby you may be saved. Point blank, period, man. Alright, again, the Heavenly Father's name being Yahweh, and that of the Messiah, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus, man. The letter J wasn't even derived until the 16th century, man. You see, and you may ask yourself, why is that relevant, right? But according to the Bible that we all say we claim and say and claim to believe, man, right? It reads, pursuant to the book of Acts, chapter 4 and verse 12, all right, that there's no other name given among man whereby salvation comes, man. All right, so the elect would find that name, call upon that name, and truly hold that name with a high regard, man, with importance. All right, not in vain, as the scriptures request us not to do, command us not to do. In fact, you see. And before I go any further, I'd like to give double honors unto the elders and the apostles at GMS Garden Millstone, and the sincere peace, love, blessing, salutations unto all those of you hopeful, faithful, potential members of the elect out there, doing the best to make the calling of your election sure. All right, Lord willing, this be edifying. Right, and as I was saying, right, we're returning to that name, right? We're returning to what's been commanded, man. What the Heavenly Father has required of us to be doing. You see? Which is not, right? He didn't send Yahushai for us to just go off and do whatever the hell we want to do, to go and sin, right? To give us license to sin, right? He gave us Yahushai because he overcame the law, meaning he was perfect in the law. So his blood was spilt to atone for the sins of the elect, man. In fact, we can find this in the book of, let me jump to the book of Romans. This is Romans. I'm going to start here, chapter 6 and verse 1. Let me read this real quick before I jump to the other chapter I want to grab. Romans chapter 6 and verse 1, it says, "What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein?" Right? So, hey, the grace hasn't been set up so to give you license, right, to do the complete contrary to what the Heavenly Father says, right? As we're speaking at the beginning of the lesson, right? An example of that would be calling the Lord whatever you want. You see, the Messiah didn't come so we could go ahead and do that, right? This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 9 and verse 15. I'm going to get straight to the point. This is, "And for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by the means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament." You see, so his blood was spilled to redeem those who were under the first testament, man, to redeem their transgressions. You see, so his blood, he was a scapegoat, man. All right, that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. And how do we strive to ensure that we receive that promise of eternal inheritance, man? We prove our faith by our works. You see, Paul gave us a perfect way to try to strive for that mastery to the best of our ability, man, which is Romans 13 and 8. It says, "Owe no man anything but to love one another."